Thank you. Good morning, everyone. It is Thursday, March 14th, 2024. It is the Amalgamation Council's Committee of a Whole. All public meetings are live streamed and recorded. Any verbal or written information provided may be included in public documents as per the Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Act, FOIP 40-1. I will call the meeting to order at 9:01. At this particular point in time, I am going to recess the meeting because we are not quorum, and as per the terms of reference, we have to wait until we've established quorum. So once we've established quorum, we will proceed. So right now, I will go into a recess, please. and welcome back. We've now established quorum, so we will continue on with the agenda before us. So looking at number 2, it is the adoption of the agenda. I would be looking for a motion to adopt the agenda. Councillor Lougheed, thank you. All those in favor?
In favor.
Thank you. I'm looking at the hands online. Perfect. That motion is carried. Moving on to the adoption of the minutes from the last Council's Committee of the Whole from February 29th, 2024. Any comments or questions or errors or omissions? If not, looking for a motion. Okay.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Gibson. I'll call the question. All those in favor? I'm going to get some more hands up. Thank you. I see that motion is carried. Now looking at continuing on with the new business, 4.1, Amalgamation Committee Charter Amendment. And I'll turn it over to Ms. Hay.
Thank you, Chair. As directed by the committee, a revised charter is attached to this item. 2 options for majority rule decision models are shown. Option 1 is majority rule individual member-based decision, and the second option is majority rule group-based decision. Option 1 is simple and direct. Quorum remains the same at 5 county members and 3 village members. Option 2 provides equal vote representation for county and village members, as each group only counts 1 vote. However, there is a risk of tied votes with this method. Quorum remains the same. After reviewing options, amending as required, and approving amendments, administration asks the committee if they would like to identify any previous decisions they would like to reconsider at a future meeting under the amended charter. A list of decisions to date are also attached.
Thank you. I'll now open up the floor for discussion in regards to the options that have been presented before us. Councillor Ratcliffe.
Thank you, Reeve. With option 2, a tie would be a fail.
That's correct.
Yes? Okay. Thank you. I prefer option 2. I think it's more fair.
So in the regards to this amendment, once we, just to review, we're going to, if there's an amendment, once we amend the charter, that would be put into effect today for future votes carrying on in this agenda item?
That's correct. If
Okay.
there's a motion to pass the, or to adopt the charter as amended this morning, then yes,
Okay, thank you.
it would take effect immediately.
Immediately? Okay. Thank you. All right. Any discussion with those online? I see, go ahead, Councillor Graham. You're muted.
Thank you. I personally would like to see it switch to option 2 as well. It gives us the right to vote no. I know that for me with the interim council, I was very vocal about being against it, and I was trying to be a team player by voting yes because I was obviously outnumbered, and it is very much bothering me that I voted yes. But if I would have voted no, then I would have held everything up, and people shouldn't be able to have a veto like that. But with option 2, the county cannot overweigh the village, the amount of votes in the village. It's still an equal voting number. You just have to have a majority votes per council kind of a thing. So I really think that we should switch it to option 2.
Thank you. Any further discussion or looking for a motion? Councillor Ratcliffe?
Thank you. I would make the motion that the committee amends the negotiation charter as per the option 2 majority ruled group-based decision
Thank you.
format.
Motion on the floor. Any further discussion? Go ahead, Ms. Haight.
If I may just clarify, the motion should include that the charter is approved or adopted as amended, or that could be a second motion.
Okay. Councillor Ratcliffe.
Thank you. Yeah, I will amend that motion to state that the charter would be amended accordingly.
Okay, thank you.
And adopted. Adopted immediately.
Okay. Amended and adopted. Okay, add that. Okay, any further discussion? See no lights. I will call the question. All those in favor? Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Deputy Mayor Gibson.
With us being online, how is it going to be able for us to discuss in quorum for the village if we're not all together?
I'm not sure, I'm just gonna repeat what I heard you say, is that you want to be able to discuss in quorum?
Yes, like if it's going to be the majority rule base where Village of Caroline discusses and the village and Clearwater County discusses, then how do we discuss amongst the three of us if we're not, like, how is that going to work?
I'm not sure I'm, so, okay, Mayor Rimmer, if you can enlighten, I'm not sure I understand
So-
her comment.
For you, well, for us to be able to caucus.
Yeah.
Or you being able to caucus, so have a private conversation between both parties.
Right.
Separately, so that, we understand where we're sitting or where you're sitting when you're discussing it. We had to do this a lot with, when the three municipalities had to, go through, we had multiple caucuses, so we made sure that we were on side. Or whether we were even going to, it's just the ability to be able to separate and go and discuss
Before the
the
vote.
matter before the vote.
Okay,
So, and that's what she's applying, I
Asking.
believe that's what she's asking.
okay,
It's not quorum, it's caucus.
okay. Go ahead, Ms. Haight, and then I have Councillor Graham online.
I just clarify that caucusing would not be necessary because in the majority rule based decision, each member votes for themselves. And before taking the vote, there is discussion amongst all of the members at the table. Caucusing is used more for a consensus-based decision, but because the votes are individual, caucusing isn't required.
Okay. If a councillor would like to caucus, though, if in regards to a decision before there is I understand the individual votes, but if they wish to caucus with their council, would that be an opportunity during I'm just thinking, like, sometimes we have a break or during that particular point in time, or is it something that they should be caucusing? I mean, it's caucusing in private anyway, so it's not like they're caucusing over live stream. So is that a proper procedure? Like, I don't want to limit their opportunity or any of our opportunities to just have any discussion with one another, but at the same time, we should be discussing what we need to discuss with each other in live stream. But if we want to caucus with our own council before, at some point in time, I don't know. Does that need to be in our terms of reference per se, or in the charter, or is that something that's just accepted through procedure bylaw, meeting bylaw?
If the committee would like to have opportunity for caucusing privately amongst the group individuals, then yes, the charter would need to be amended to include that. And as I mentioned previously, it's unnecessary to have a caucus because each individual is placing their own vote, and discussion amongst the members of the committee takes place prior to the vote. But should the committee wish to allow for caucusing, then I can quickly work on some wording to include that in the amended charter.
Okay. Councillor Graham, you had your hand up, and I just want to give you an opportunity.
Miss Haight covered what I was going to say. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mayor Rimmer?
Since this is a negotiation, there should always be the opportunity to caucus, so that, not everyone understands from their own perspective exactly what is being discussed sometimes. And to be, would provide each group the opportunity to be able to discuss amongst themselves, what this particular, vote might be for. Because I know that, well, anytime that you have communication, there's going to be confusion sometimes or different perspectives. So to have that option in there to be able to caucus, I believe, would be, well, it would just be that much better to be able to make sure everybody understands exactly where each group is going, because the county, and the village both, want to be able to do the best possible deal. And if somebody is too shy or has stage fright, they can't discuss it, in a larger group. And, we can smile and laugh, but that's the case. There's a lot of people that just like, well, I don't know if I truly understand that, and I don't want to look stupid.
Well,
I know I do it all the time, but get used to it.
we're each elected to be here and to look stupid if we have to. And at the end of the day, I understand where you're coming from, but I do understand that each individual council has their own opinions, and it is this allows our councilors to vote freely in this regard, and I think that's the best way forward. The best transparency going forward, and if those councillors are confused or would like more clarification, you and I, as chairs for this, will make sure that administration brings forward that information and will clarify. So I see blinky light here, so I'll go with Councillor Lougheed, and then I'll go to Councillor Cermak.
I can see some value in the importance of caucusing, just because, as we know, with what's proposed in this motion is that if there is a tie or a difference in opinions, that is defeated. Right. So whatever we're trying to decide at that moment will be defeated if there isn't, there's no such thing as a tie vote, it's defeated. Well, it is a tie vote, but it's defeated. So essentially, a dissension means that it doesn't move forward, and you have to go back to square one and figure out another solution. So I think there can be an opportunity for additional conversation around what that means and whether it's important to find a different solution, or whether those things that are proposed before us are part of the recommendation is something that we can live with.
Thank you. Councillor Cermak?
I'm taking a different perspective on this. As a committee member to this committee, I would love to hear what all of the committee members have to say, not individual. Each individual has their own idea. You vote on it, and then it goes back to our councils, our individual councils, when you vote on what we had suggested. We're only suggesting to our councils what we would like to do. Our councils have the final decision. So that's when the caucusing can take place. But as a committee member, I would love to hear what John's idea is on a subject. I'd like to hear yours, Michelle. All of the committee members. Because that's the only way I'm going to get an informed decision on what we're doing. I want to hear both sides. I don't want one side to go. This is a committee to direct our councils.
Thank you. All right, so the suggestion has been to from Deputy Mayor Gibson in regards to caucusing. So, but we do have a motion on the floor first. So I'm looking across to Ms. Haight. Would it be okay to just make a decision on this particular motion and then come back and do, if there's a motion that comes forward in regards to caucusing, to come back and do that afterwards?
Yes, there could be a second motion that the charter be further amended to include for caucusing, and then adopted as amended.
Okay. All right. So we have a path forward. So there is a motion on the floor in regards to option 2, which is the majority rural group-based decision, and approve the charter as amended and adopted. If there's any other further questions, comments on that particular motion, I'll call the question. All those in favor? And seeing hands up online, thank you very much. That motion is carried. Now looking at a further motion, I'll look for Deputy Mayor Gibson. Did you want to make that motion in regards to caucusing? Oh,
Yes, I do, please.
Go ahead. Did the wish to see the amendments, the suggested amendment?
okay, yes, please. Oh, okay.
Yeah, Alana will have that up on the screen shortly.
Thank you. There'll be a suggested amendment in that regards, Deputy Mayor Gibson online, and you'll see that here right away. We are,
Okay, thank you.
okay. Go ahead, Councillor Graham.
While we're waiting here, so what is the plan for if we do allow caucusing? Like right now, for example, would I have to sign out of the meeting and the county councillors would leave the room for them to caucus, or while we're waiting, what would the plan be for that?
Yeah. Yes, the virtual option does present its own issues, so that would be something that either it's a group text or a group phone call. yes, I would present its own issues, so I would imagine that the councils will have that worked out before the meeting, the next negotiation meeting, on how they wish to proceed if should they want a council, or want to caucus. So we do have a suggested motion before us online saying caucusing will be issued as needed, and that any member may request a caucus at any point. And when the caucus is requested, the chair will establish a time limit for the caucus, recognizing that if necessary, such a time limit may be extended. At the conclusion of the caucus, the chair will ask all parties to report on the results of the caucus, beginning with the party that had requested the caucus. Each party shall be free to determine what to report. So having a look at that for us, Councillor Radcliffe.
Thank you, Reeve. I have to recognize that the points that have been already made about for and against caucusing are valid. I do want to hear the thoughts of the Caroline representatives here on the committee, because it is my intent to work for the best interest of both parties. That's a true win. So while I think that it probably wouldn't be necessary, I'm not opposed to having that in the toolkit if people feel they need to caucus.
Okay, thank you. Deputy Mayor Gibson, have you had an opportunity to read, and would you forward that as a motion for the committee's consideration?
I will forward that as a motion for the committee's consideration.
Any further discussion on the motion? Oh, go ahead, Tracy.
And just to clarify, that this amendment would be inserted after the roles and communications expectations section on page 3 of the charter. So a title for caucusing will follow the roles and communications expectations.
Thank you. Could I also put like a friendly amendment, like you did for the last motion, and that is to say that the charter as amended and adopted, like this isn't, or do we need to add that to this motion that we're amending, or the charter to include this?
Yes, the motion could clarify that the charter further amended to include caucusing, and then that it is, the charter is adopted as amended.
Okay. Would you accept that as a friendly amendment, Deputy Mayor Gibson?
Yes, I will.
All right, Councillor Lahi?
Yes, just for clarification, when would this rule come into effect?
Ms. Haight?
Immediately?
Immediately,
As
as did the previous motion?
Exactly.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any further comments, questions? Mayor Rimmer?
As requested, I will let you know what my thoughts are on this, and that I have to look at it as what's the pros and cons with it. I didn't, appreciate it caucusing too much when we were negotiating with Rocky and the county and us, because it's like Councillor Cermak had stated, is that you prefer to hear where everybody stands and then vote on that, as opposed to potentially causing a wedge put into the discussions. I understand that, but we also have come and made some modifications from the original part of, how we were supposed to do it in the charter. So I would suggest that we maybe discuss the pros and cons of changing all of this. What does it mean as far as going into each particular subject? The way that it was situated before, that Councillor Graham had stated that she didn't feel comfortable saying yay to, you know, a motion that was on the floor. I get that also, but basically what we're trying to do is come up with, you know, a way to go through so that somebody doesn't feel bad because they didn't vote or had to vote or forced into a vote. I mean, we can all we had to do was just state that we voted for, but with just make a note that you didn't really want to vote that in that direction, rather than going through all of this. But I get it. Caucusing it can have some good things, and caucusing can have some negative connotations as well. So I'm fine with either. I'd like to caucus with our group now to just see if we want to caucus. No, just kidding.
Very good.
It hasn't been passed, so I can't do that.
That's right. Anything
I
further?
would like to hear what Barb has to say. You know, caucusing, I can see some of the merits of it, and I'm sure that all of you could, if certain examples were brought up, that, well, better make sure that we understand everything without having to discuss it with the whole group, and then spin off into some.
And I would offer that at the last meeting, we had a pretty in-depth discussion in regards to that particular topic, and also what has been proposed as far as the new direction of the charter in regards to having a group vote, majority votes. So with that, but yeah, I believe Deputy Mayor Gibson had made her thoughts known on the last one. Maybe she's changed it. She's offered to do this motion, so I understand where you are coming from, Mayor Rimmer, and I believe that with all this process, we want to continue the pace that we're going and don't want to hold things up either. So this will free us up the time and the opportunity to keep checking those boxes that we need to create the report for municipal affairs. So, Councillor Lougheed, please.
Thank you, Reeve Swanson, or Chair Swanson. Definitely, I see us advancing a bit here. We went from a point where we would have any one of 12 committee members essentially holding a veto, and then we've adjusted that so that people can feel more free to vote against something or try to adjust something differently, as well as the opportunity to caucus means that somebody may have a fairly strong opinion within that individual group and can still talk with their other councillors and hopefully find a consensus within the group that is more in the positive. So I think we're moving forward with a better potential, especially when we look at that we have a definite timeline to get this done, and we want to make sure we can move forward and have a wholesome discussion where people can feel free to voice a different opinion than what is initially proposed anyway. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so we have a motion in regards to caucusing before us by Deputy Mayor Gibson. And if there's any further comments or questions, I'm going to call the question. Mayor Rimmer.
Knew you're just ready to go for the vote, but I just wanted to state that, you know, even if we don't have the caucus option, I'm sure that as adults we can decide that we'd like to talk to our cohorts and, you know, make sure that they understand what's, you know, that we all are we understand what's going on.
For sure.
So I'm like, again, I would either way. I don't. This probably is the best solution. This option 2. I'm not really that concerned about the caucusing, as long as we request that any one of us can say, well, I'd like to, you know, have a private discussion with so-and-so, could we have a short recess? I'm sure that would be allowed. And that'd be the same as a caucus anyway, so.
So with the formalities, what I have, I believe this is what the caucusing motion that was before us. We've already passed option 2. So, like Councillor Ratcliffe has said, we want tools in the toolbox. So this is an opportunity, another tool in the toolbox. So, Councillor Lougheed, please. Yeah.
Sorry,
No.
as we're kind of on the ledge of our first vote within this new format. Who goes first? I don't think we decided that. Or do we all vote at once and then we tally it up after? How do we do that? I just,
Yes. Go ahead, Ms. Haight.
Yes, as it states in the charter, after the chair puts a motion to a vote, each member votes by raising their hand. Individual votes will be counted within 2 groups, Clearwater County Group and Village of Caroline Group, and the majority determines the decision as follows. When a majority of individuals within their group vote in favor of a motion, it is recognized by the committee as one group vote in favor of the motion. And the same with if there's opposition in the motion.
Thank you.
So after the chair calls the question, each member votes accordingly, and then it is tallied up
Yes,
according to groups.
according to the groups, correct.
Yeah.
So within each of. Are we clear? Or do you have another question? Okay.
Need a
Okay.
Clarification on.
Go ahead.
So this discussion, and what we voted on, would that address the issues that a particular group in your county has about, Caroline getting an unfair amount of votes? Does this address that somewhat? Because it looks to me like we address that, and that was a good suggestion. I can understand where they were coming from. And this was a good workaround to, I guess, appease that worry about Caroline having an unfair advantage of votes going forward.
No, actually, it was, we felt it was an opportunity, again, as indicated, like, we wanted to, the veto vote of any one counselor having a veto vote, like, that was not sitting with us, or some counselors, and so anyway, so we said, what's a different way to do that? We could have done all individual votes, and then, and did a tally that way too, but then the discussion was at the last meeting that would be seen unfairly as 7-5, regardless of where those opinions landed. And so we felt that maybe as councils, one council to one council, each having one vote, but within that vote, so if out of 7 councilors, if 2 voted in favor, whatever, it was still up to them to vote at their free will. So it really had no bearing on how they felt towards Caroline or not towards Caroline or whatever. It was allowing each individual council to vote of their opinion. So that's how we want, without stymieing the veto vote. So.
I don't know if you took it the wrong way.
No, no,
but what?
no.
Like, I think that this is a good workaround. Okay, and I'm not, no, it was the comments that I was hearing on social media that I avoid as much as possible right now. But about the concerns of citizens that, Caroline would be having an unfair advantage. And I'm not saying that you guys are saying. All I'm saying is that this would address that. And do you feel that it addressed it so that they are appeased that, yes, because we had the same sort of feelings that we took care of that? And that this would actually provide a more independent vote as opposed to, one group against the other group or whatever, or that Caroline, after the amalgamation and the interim, excuse me, the interim council would be populated with a majority of Caroline votes. So that's what I would just trying to clarify is that, does that address the particular group's issues? Because we had the same ourselves, right?
For sure.
So-
Yep, thank you for that. Councillor Graham?
Yeah, I think I understand what Mayor Rimmer's trying to say here, and this does not address that issue. Changing the number of council members on the interim council would address that issue. However, this only addresses the amalgamation committee itself, so it does not, their concerns are not with the amalgamation committee, their concerns are with the interim council. So this does not carry over to the interim council. It's only for the amalgamation committee itself. I hope that helps.
Thank you.
Understood.
Okay.
But it might be the best way to go forward to address that. That's all, you know, what I was trying to get at, what we're trying to understand, voting for the majority rule group-based decision, option 2, which I think is probably the best. And we come back to the motion that's still on the floor about caucusing. And I just wanted clarification whether we addressed the other.
Okay, Councillor Lougheed?
And I where you're coming from. Ultimately, for me, those comments we see in social media around there being an unfair balance there, that would be going with a mistaken assumption that something that is good for Clearwater County is not good for Caroline and vice versa. I think we can be mutually beneficial in all our decisions, and if you're going with the mistaken assumption that it's either for or against Caroline or for or against Clearwater County on any decision, kind of really derates the work that's done by councils to provide for all the community, and I think it's going from a mistaken assumption.
Thank you for that. All right, so I will limit debate now and of the motion, and we will go straight to I'll call the question in regards to the motion on the floor. I will call the question. All those in favor? 1, 2. I see 3 online. This is for the caucusing. Yes, this is for the caucusing. So you're counting, I have 3 online.
There's 4 county councillors voting in favor?
Yes.
Okay, and so that's 1 group vote?
Yep.
In favor? And then for Caroline?
So I didn't call those opposed, or are we automatically assuming that?
Well, 4 out of 5
Yeah.
county councillors voted in favor, correct?
Yes. I never called those opposed. That's the only thing,
Okay,
right?
okay,
So,
go ahead,
yeah.
go ahead.
So those opposed, so,
Okay, did you vote? Oh, okay, opposed?
nope.
No, oh, okay.
So one
Okay.
opposed for county,
So
4 in
that,
favor.
that county group vote is carried,
Yes,
and then the Caroline group vote, there were how many in favor?
they were all, I see them both in favor here. Both Councillor, Deputy Mayor Gibson and, yeah.
Okay,
Ms. Merrick,
so
Ms. Walton.
that would mean that the Caroline group vote is in
Yeah,
favor,
yeah.
and so then that would mean that the motion has passed.
Correct. All right, motion is passed. So we have the ability now to do the group-based decision, vote, and also counseling. Now, further to this agenda item, we are requested if there are any of the previous decisions that we'd like to reconsider at a future meeting under this amended charter, and the list of decisions are attached to dates, so I will open the floor up. Are there any previous decisions that we need to reconsider at a future date? Go ahead, Councillor Graham.
Excuse me. I would like to reconsider the interim council, please.
Okay. The interim council vote. Councillor Graham has requested to bring back the interim council decision. Any further decisions? Go ahead, Mayor Rimmer.
I'm not understanding, so I'm having a stupid moment, I guess,
Okay,
which I'm used to.
so
So we passed this going forward. So now we're talking about going back over our decisions that we made previous to this, under this change in the charter? Am I understanding that correct?
we are opening up the decision, past decisions that we've made in the last few minutes, if we would like, or last few meetings. That was the discussion on the February 29th, that there are council members that would like to go back and redo under the new amended. If it was amended, they wanted to be able to go back and have those votes within their own council. And going forward, I know if I want to go back a couple of councils, I know Deputy Mayor Gibson was not necessarily happy in regards to ward boundaries. She could bring that particular decision back for her own individual vote if she so pleases. We're opening up any other decisions that we'd like to go back. This is the only time I believe that this committee would have the opportunity to bring back these decisions. We're not going to keep doing it time and time again, is what our understanding is. So,
Well, I don't know where the thing came from. I guess I'm perplexed in how past decisions, and you can do that, but there needs to be a motion to be able to do that, or like, we can't just, let's go back and we'll do this and this. I get the amending things, but just for a particular vote count. So maybe I missed something, that there has to be, usually, you got, there needs to be a motion to be reconsider.
Yep.
Like,
Councillor Graham has offered that she just said she would like that one to be brought. We'll put it to a motion yet. With this, the conversation isn't closed, so that's why I've just said, is there any other decisions? And then the motion will come forward, and then we'll make a vote. Did you want to discuss on process first of this, Ms. Haight?
That exactly is the process. At the last meeting, the committee did indicate that there were some items that they would like to reconsider, but yes, there still has to be a motion. This is just to identify which items the committee would like to reconsider at a future meeting, and yes, there is a motion expected to bring that forward, but this is just to get the list started.
so a list of, okay.
And then the motion that would come would be that the committee reconsiders, and then the item numbers at a future council or future committee meeting. And should that vote be carried, then those items will come back at a future meeting.
Okay, that's a little better understanding. It was like, I wasn't sure what the heck was going on here. We were going to, all right, let's go back through all of them, we'll start voting on everything again and discussing, and
My apologies. I thought
if it's just a list of things, can we not have that motion on the floor? We can say, yes, please go back to your what we've passed and discuss, or have you make up a list? Because it's not on the agenda here, is it?
The list, no. This is identified in the agenda item. Go ahead.
Report?
It's in the report. Yeah.
Okay, well, I'm sorry, I missed a lot of that
No worries.
due to other circumstances.
Council.
Okay, as long as we don't have to vote going back and rediscuss some of the things we've already voted on today, I would be happy with that.
No, we're not re-voting today. This is just identifying a list of things that we want to be able to discuss. Councillor Lougheed?
You
Oh, you're good.
explained it well, but I believe we'd probably just have to have a motion to reconsider a
Yes.
list of,
Yes.
is that where we would it be today?
Yes.
Or are we actually gonna go back to those particular resolutions or motions
Go ahead,
today?
Ms. Haight.
So the task at hand, based on last meeting's discussion, the committee, if they wish to reconsider past decisions under the new charter, the task at hand is to identify which one of those decisions that the committee would like to reconsider and have a motion. Perhaps there are no decisions that the committee would like to reconsider, but that's up for discussion. And if there is items, then a motion would be passed. And if that motion passes, then items would come back to reconsider. I hope I didn't confuse it.
No, that's fine. Counselor Cermak?
Yeah, this is just a list that we're making to get more information, right?
And reconsider the vote as well.
Okay, so,
Made back because some people were uncomfortable with the format we had before, which was essentially you had to vote unanimously or forever hold your peace, and
Yep.
they didn't want to hold their peace.
so we changed
Here we
that.
are.
Well, I would like to look at the electoral boundaries according to our MGA. I think if we split Caroline down the middle, like it said, I think that there's gonna be some of the divisions that are gonna be over the plus 25, and some are gonna be under the plus 25.
So that, you would like that particular item brought back on, put on the
For
list?
more information on what the MGA calls for,
Okay. So not,
just to have it clarified.
okay. Go ahead, Ms. Haight, sorry. You're the one that's making the list, so you need to be clear.
So the list before the committee is a list of items that have been, that the committee has negotiated on and decided. So for example, the electoral wards, the committee decided that the new municipality would be divided into 7 electoral wards. Electors in Caroline will vote either in Ward 4 or 6.
Go ahead, Counselor.
There was a motion on the floor.
Yes,
We didn't vote on that motion on the floor to continue this, and I would like us, we hadn't decided whether we were going to go forward with making the list. Now, I would suggest,
there was no motion to,
well, there should be
we're
a
in
motion
discussion.
to go back on any of this, anything going back before we pass this. It should be on the agenda that we were going to have a list of,
the last.
am I incorrect in this? Is that,
So the last paragraph says, after reviewing the options, amendments as required, amending as required and approving the amendment, which we did, administration asked the committee if they would like to identify any previous decisions they would like to reconsider at a future meeting under the amended charter. So a list of decisions to date are attached for consideration. So this is what we are discussing, is which decisions we would like to reconsider at a future meeting. Counselor Graham has asked that she would like the decision in regards to the interim council be brought back. Counselor Cermak has just identified he wants the electoral wards brought back. So those decisions will be back at a future meeting. Did you have further clarification?
I understood that there was a motion on the floor to do that, but my mistake, I guess. So obviously, people have made their lists of what they want to go back on, which which under the MGA, or any government, I'm not sure if it's under our charter in this committee, but you can go back at any time, years later, in fact, to go and change.
So the
votes on
discussion on February 29th, which you were not here,
stuff. Yes,
this was part of the discussion of the counselors of the committee at that particular point of meeting, in that meeting. So yes, some of us have had 3 weeks to think about it.
all right.
Go ahead, Ms. Haight.
If it pleases the committee, there could be a motion to reconsider previous decision items. If that motion passes, then the committee could move into making a list.
Okay. But that, go ahead, Councillor Lloyd. Sorry,
Thank
your
you, and
light's on.
I just don't want to lose sight of what
We're doing.
here. We're putting in a recommendation to, or a report to the minister that says we've talked about a lot of items which could be a problem. Ultimately, it's the interim council after amalgamation that puts this into actual policy. Am I correct in that, or am I going off a mistaken assumption that today we're not actually deciding the electoral boundaries? The interim council will decide those things. We're just reporting to the minister that we've talked about them, and this is a potential direction we would recommend to that interim council. But it will be the interim council that makes these decisions, is it not? Or am I wrong in
Ms.
that
Haight?
assumption?
Some of the items, you are correct. Other items, they go into the order in council that the minister, like the report, if both councils decide that they want to move forward with amalgamation, if they decide that as of January 1st, 2025, Clearwater County and the Village of Caroline become one new municipality, then that report becomes the application for amalgamation. The minister then looks at that report, and for some of the items, that becomes the order in council from the province. So, for example, electoral wards, yes, that will become part of the order in council. The electoral wards for the new municipality will be established, set in stone, so to speak, for the new municipality. If at a later time, the new municipality council decides to change electoral wards, that could be done. But the minister needs something to register that new municipality. So
Technically, it would be the minister doing that on this committee's recommendation, is
Exactly.
that correct?
Exactly. And that's for some of the items.
And that does not bind the interim council from following that. They could change it at any point of time if it
Well-
didn't make sense. I mean, we're not bound to deciding
Everything.
everything in the future today.
Right. And it
Our
would,
best guess
Yeah.
of where we're going is here, and we're telling the minister that, and he looks at it and says, hey, it makes sense. I can sign my name to that, and he does that, and then we move forward from that point. Is that
yeah.
kind of?
And then the new council of the municipality will be faced with any of the decisions that, that they want to make.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. All right, so it's been suggested that maybe a motion would be better to come forth, that the committee reconsiders some of the, or identifies some of the, or reconsiders some of the decisions?
Right,
That
just
would be better?
that the committee reconsiders previous
Okay,
previous resolutions.
previous resolutions, okay. I'm just writing this down. Councillor Graham? Sorry.
I was just going to suggest that we just make the list and then those motions come forward at the meeting that the items come forward at, like we had. But if we want a motion now, that's that's fine too.
Thank you. Councillor Ratcliffe?
I move that the Amalgamation Committee reopen or open the item number 6, electoral wards, and item 10, interim council, for further debate and discussion and a vote on a future agenda.
Okay. Is there any, haven't heard anything. Go ahead, Councillor Graham.
I guess for me, I will be voting in favor of this motion. Like I said earlier, I was trying to be a team player to keep things moving along with this process, and I feel that I compromised myself in doing so and voted in favor of something I was strongly against, and I would simply like the opportunity to vote in opposition to the interim council, and it's just as simple as that. So I would hope that everyone else would be a team player and allow me that opportunity.
Thank you. Any further discussion on the motion to bring back the two previous resolutions, interim council electoral awards? I'll call the question. All those in favor? 2, 3 online. Okay. Those opposed? No, none. That motion's carried. Yeah, all 3 are online. Thank you. Now moving on in our agenda, I believe that item is complete. We're moving on to item 4.2, Planning and Development, Operational Land Use Bylaws and Appeals. I'll turn over to Ms. Haight. Or sorry, Ms. Haggard. My apologies.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good morning, members of the Amalgamation Committee, and this is my first presentation in front of the committee, and I thank my esteemed colleagues for filling in for me in January when I was out of the office for a few of the other departmental items that fall within my realm. So thank you, Ms. Haight and Mr. Emmons, for covering that off for me. The one before the Amalgamation Committee that I have for you is relating to land use planning and all of the tools, policies related to land use planning. I'll start kind of chronological in order and just go over what each municipality has in terms of planning documents, and then feel free to ask questions or stop me as we go through. So as the committee members are well aware, the Municipal Government Act, Section 632, in fact, states that every council of a municipality must, by bylaw, adopt a municipal development plan. Obviously then, of course, both Clearwater County and the village have MDP documents. Clearwater County's MDP went under a extensive review back in 2021 through 2023, and was adopted in 2023 following public consultation and significant revision. The Village of Caroline's MDP was recently approved in 2019 as well. So again, should the Amalgamation Committee recommend amalgamation, both the MDPs for the municipalities and any associated bylaws transition to the new municipality and would remain in effect. During the transition period, administration recommends the Village of Caroline's MDP can be reviewed, and should the village become a hamlet as part of that new municipality, can be reflected in a new revised bylaw for the new municipality. So essentially a new MDP in that transition period. The work plan issued by Municipal Affairs also mentions engineering servicing standards. So I just wanted to touch on that, that those standards would continue to apply in whichever jurisdiction they're originally set until any new bylaws are created. So that covers MDP. Seeing no questions, I'm going to move on to intermunicipal development plan. Again,
no, sure. Okay, Mayor River.
Have we, Larry, and this is directed at you, have we received all of the county's bylaws for their land development? I know we've supplied everything according to what I understand. So what I want to know is there any particular bylaws, or, and I'm sure that there is, that are applied to the hamlets? Or is it all across the board? Because I haven't seen anything that would suggest that managing your hamlets are any different than managing, you know, the overall land in the county. So I'm, you know, for someone that's in charge of going forward, I would like to understand what those bylaws are and whether they need to be, you know, addressed in some fashion. So that was my question: is have we received the bylaws that they would have specifically for hamlets?
Go ahead, Mr. Wright.
Not specifically, in that I'm not sure of the total extent of all the bylaws affecting engineering services, utility services, and the likes of that. I imagine there's a great number in that, and we can review them. And I'd be quite interested under the Engineering Act, as I'm a RET.
Go
You
ahead,
bet.
Ms. Hager.
You bet, Mayor Rimmer and CAO Wright. So this one's focused on land use planning bylaws, and our municipal development plan, intermunicipal development plan, land use bylaws are all available to the public online. Further down in the agenda item, I'll touch on some area structure plans. We do have for a couple of Clearwater County's hamlets, Leslieville and Condor. So those are also publicly available.
Yep. Yep, no, go ahead, Mr. Emmett.
Sorry, Madam Chair, we
CAO.
lost the team's access, so we will need to reset so we can carry
Okay.
on with this
So
discussion.
good time to have a coffee.
So, are we,
I move that we
I
have
will-
a
I'll
coffee.
move to a recess.
All in favor?
and welcome back from our recess. We had a few technical difficulties that are now corrected, and we are going to restart the agenda item 4.2 in regards to planning, and I'll turn it back to Director Haig. Sorry, yes, Director Haggart, sorry.
No problem.
My apologies.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and good morning again, Amalgamation Committee. Just because the Teams meeting for those attending virtually was cut off as soon as I started speaking, so I guess I have that effect on technology. I'm going to start over, so I apologize if you're listening online, it's a repeat, but as the Amalgamation Committee is aware, the Municipal Government Act, Section 632, states that every council of a municipality must by bylaw adopt a municipal development plan. Of course, both municipalities have a municipal development plan, or an MDP. Clearwater County went through an extensive review, revision, and public consultation program for their adoption of their current MDP, which is a 2023 year. Village of Caroline's MDP is a 2019 year, has also recently been reviewed and approved by their councils as well. Both of those documents are available on the respective municipalities' websites, as is legislated by the Municipal Government Act, that planning related legislation is publicly available. And so as I went through previously, should the Amalgamation Committee recommend amalgamation to the councils and the minister, both of the MDPs for the municipalities and any associated bylaws transition to the new municipality and would remain in effect. During that transition period then, the administration recommends that the village's MDP can be reviewed, and should the village become a hamlet as part of that new municipality, can be reflected in new revised bylaws to be adopted by the new municipality at that time. So essentially, meaning everything that we have current transitions into the new municipality, and through the process of time in 2025 and onwards, those can be evaluated and amended through whichever type of consultation process the new municipality wishes at that time. There are legislated requirements for adoption of those new documents, which would transfer as well, obviously. I also noted previously, before the technical difficulty, that the Municipal Affairs Work Plan also includes engineering structure standards need to be considered. So I've noted that those would continue to apply in the jurisdiction they originally set until new bylaws are created by the municipality. So that was the MDP component. Again, there was a question about the planning documents. I started to answer for one of the committee members, and that was related to what are available by either municipality. So any kind of land use planning, municipal development plans are on Clearwater County's website. They're also on the Village of Caroline's website. And in terms of hamlets, the question was specific to hamlets. Clearwater County does have area structure plans for 2 of its hamlets, Leslieville and Condor, as well Nordegg Development Plan, which is kind of a slightly different type of plan. For another one of our hamlets is we're the developer, so it's a bit more detailed than an area structure plan. And those are also available on the county's website.
Mayor Remmer?
Thank you. And I will look at those and just see what, if I have any further questions on those particular items. So thanks again.
Thank you.
All right. Go into the Intermunicipal Development Plan section, or IDP. Section 631 of the MGA states that municipalities with common boundaries, of course with some exceptions that came later on in that 2019 amendment to the MGA, they must by bylaw adopt an intermunicipal development plan. So during that time period that the MGA changed, although Clearwater County already had an IDP with the Village of Caroline, we created many in that time frame. So ours was revised with Caroline and in 2019 and adopted by both councils as part of that ICF process. So there is an existing IDP. So should the Amalgamation Committee recommend amalgamation, although the IDPs would transition to the new municipality as they stand, I would argue that an IDP would become obsolete and no longer be legislatively required because the 2 municipalities become one, and that the IDP bylaw could be rescinded in the transition period by the new municipality. Okay. Thank you. Question?
Go ahead, Councillor Surma.
Yeah, I just want to clarify in my piece of brain that all of these transfer over to the interim, and both of the bylaws, Village of Caroline and the County of Clearwater, both transition over, and that's the time when they make a decision on what they want to keep or what they want to change? Or does that stay until a new elected happens in 2026?
So as far as I understand the amalgamation process, the statutory plans like a land use bylaw or a municipal development plan stay status quo moving into the new municipality. And then at that point, it would be up to the new municipality to determine the time frame, because they exist for their boundaries. So Clearwater County's boundaries would apply, and then Caroline's boundaries would apply for their planning documents. During that transition period, depending on how much time it would take, it could be falling into the election period, which is scheduled for end of October. So, October 2025.
Yeah.
So ideally, the new transition municipality would make those decisions in advance of an election, but depending on timing, it could be after.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. That clarifies it for me.
Carry on.
Next section within the agenda item is the land use bylaw, as I've mentioned a couple times. Of course, section 640 of the MGA states that every municipality must pass a land use bylaw. That's why we have them, as well as for good land use and planning and stewardship. So 640 also tells what a land use bylaw must address and what matters must be addressed within the land use bylaw and LUB. Clearwater County's land use bylaw is more than 20 years old, and the county has been undergoing a comprehensive review and is in the process of starting the rewrite of its land use bylaw, expected towards the end of this year. And that's because that document is a carryover from several previous versions. Standards have changed over time, and as well, shifts in land use have been observed that maybe weren't considered as part of the land use bylaw of the day. So that process is, again, another longer process, and I know the steering committee for the Clearwater County's land use bylaw met earlier this year and talked about timing and how that would work should an amalgamation occur. And it was discussed that, we'd have a fairly decent handle on a draft bylaw. It's not likely to be adopted before the transition to the new municipality if that happens. So that there would be a draft bylaw in hand going into the new municipality, and our existing land use bylaw would likely stay. If, for instance, timeframes moved up and the Clearwater County approved its land use bylaw before the end of the year, then that new bylaw, whichever bylaw is in effect the day of the transition to the new municipality would apply, but we're not anticipating that our revised land use bylaw would be ready in time for that. In terms of the Village of Caroline, their bylaw was adopted in 2008, and that's also available on their website, and that is recommended to be reviewed in transition period to reflect the realities should the village become a hamlet as part of that new municipality. Again, just wanting to touch on the engineering standards. Any applicable engineering standards noted within either document would continue to apply in the jurisdiction which they originally set until those new land use bylaws are created.
See no blinky lights or hands, you can carry on.
You bet. So area structure plans. MGA 633 allows for the creation of area structure plans by bylaw to provide a framework for subsequent subdivision or development of an area of land. Both municipalities have area structure plans in place, several of them within Clearwater County and a few in the village. Should the amalgamation committee recommend amalgamation, both the county and village ASPs would carry forward as is.
No lights, keep going.
Okay. And now in terms of appeal board, MGA 627 states a council must by bylaw establish a subdivision and development appeal board, or SDAB as we lovingly call it, and or authorize a municipality to enter into an agreement with one or more municipalities to establish an intermunicipal subdivision development appeal board. So in Clearwater County's case, Clearwater County operates its own appeal board as per 6271A, and the county's SDAB bylaw. The Village of Caroline has a contracted service for an intermunicipal SDAB via their bylaw 2018-001, which is a contracted service through a regional SDAB offered by Parkland Community Planning Services. So we have a little bit of a mix in terms of what we do for appeal boards and how we manage them. And should the amalgamation committee recommend amalgamation, SDAB bylaws as they stand would transition to the new municipality, And then again, during that transition period, the new municipality can evaluate and determine if they wish to use 6271A or B as the most appropriate method for the new municipality to handle appeals. Should they receive any appeals in the interim, I would say that an appeal within the current boundaries of Clearwater County would go to County SDAB. Should there be one in that short time frame before the transition determines what we're doing within the Village of Caroline, then it could just go to the regional SDAB. We still have to follow the rules of those bylaws until things are changed.
Okay.
That's it for SDAB. Keep
Yeah,
going.
I'm thinking
All
we're
right.
good.
Next one, lots of legislation in this agenda item. MGA 649 allows for the creation of a levy bylaw, which authorizes redevelopment levy or an offsite levy that may set out purpose for each levy and indicate how the amount of levy was determined. Clearwater County does not have any existing offsite levies that I am aware of, and we've kind of dug through the archives and aren't familiar with any being part of our municipality. Village of Caroline has indicated they have one offsite levy bylaw, and that was attached for the committee's information. Should the amalgamation committee recommend the amalgamation, any of existing levy bylaws would transition to the new municipality. Again, I feel like I'm a broken record. All things come forward, and then the new municipality can evaluate during the transition period or thereafter, and whether offsite levy bylaws are required or not. And if they're not required, the one that pertains to the Village of Caroline could be updated or rescinded at that point.
See no lights, no hands.
All right. And then lastly, on my agenda, but most importantly, should the amalgamation committee recommend amalgamation? Again, the default noted in the workbook from Municipal Affairs would be that any existing staff transition to the new municipality for the new municipality to determine where they fit within the organizational structure. Administration recommends that the planning and development and subdivision development appeal board categories that we're talking about for this agenda item are suitably addressed with the county's existing staff and contracted services. And I'll just give a quick summary of the items that are noted for the committee's consideration. Again, the MDP would be transition forward for both municipalities and addressing that in the transition period. IDP, again, would become moot in the fact that we would be one municipality in a new municipality, so that would be no longer required and could be rescinded from both perspectives, both bylaws relating to the plan. That's an IDP. Land use bylaw, again, transition, and a new revised draft would be, and I imagine there'd be some public consultation component, especially bringing in Caroline into a new municipal LUB. Area structure plans carry forward as they exist. Offsite levies carry forward as they exist, and then determination if they need any change at all. SDAB bylaws carry forward as they exist, and then I think there should be a decision to be consistent across the entire municipality, so that would need to be an early on transition period discussion. And no amendment to existing planning department staff, as Clearwater County's complement are sufficient to meet the needs of the new municipality. So I'm just trying to find my recommendation. I'm scrolling way back. So the staff recommendation, wrapping that all up, is that the amalgamation committee agree that Clearwater County's existing staff related to planning and development, operational, remain status quo. The Clearwater County and the Village of Caroline's land use bylaws, policies, and contracted service agreements related to the land use bylaw and enforcement all remain in place and carry over to the new municipality. And that the new municipality will adopt an amended combined land use bylaw in the transition period.
Go ahead, Councillor Ratcliffe.
Thank you. I just have a question regarding the off-site levy. I see that the village does have a bylaw for that, but are there any outstanding, is there actually off-site levies in place or outstanding? Or it's simply that they have a bylaw?
I'm going to have to defer that to my esteemed colleague to my right, Mr. Wright.
Go ahead, Stephen.
Current, we have a bylaw as noted in that, and that's available when we proceed to new developments and that. but it would be under our development permit process, and make a determination on the utilities or services that need to be provided and to what level, okay? And I had taken our council through our detailed offsite levy practice that I'd used in other communities previously 6 months ago. And we are looking at what's the accelerated cost post-COVID of the rates, and it indicates they should go up around 250% per category. Thank you.
Okay.
All right. Seeing no hands online, there is a recommendation before us. Looking for a motion to either direct discussion or to call the question if there's no more other discussion. Go ahead, Councillor Ratcliffe.
Is there any discussion online?
I'm seeing none.
Okay. All right, I will make the motion then that the Amalgamation Committee agrees that Clearwater County's existing staffing related to planning and development remains status quo, that Clearwater County and the Village of Caroline's land use bylaws, policies, and contracted service agreements related to land use bylaw and enforcement all remain in place and carry over to the new municipality, and that the new municipality will adopt an amended or combined land use bylaw in the transition period.
Thank you for that. Any discussion in regards to the motion on the floor? Seeing no hands online and no lights. Oh, go ahead, Councillor Cermak, thank you.
Yeah, it says that they'll all remain in force. I read somewhere that the Village of Caroline is having an extra meeting for some bylaw or development or something. I seen a piece of paper on it and I went to find it again and it was gone and I did not get to read it. Can you enlighten me, Mayor Rimmer, what that was about?
Okay, Mayor Rimmer?
It's business as usual.
Oh, for sure, for sure.
Okay, and this is a fairly contested bylaw. We're having a public meeting, and due to technical difficulties, it didn't go through. So we've had to postpone it until the 27th. And that has to do with the solar, as you understand, or you should understand.
I've been out a couple of weeks, so.
Well, this has been going on for a lot, within a couple of weeks.
Okay.
It's like the sky is falling. But that, we have to move forward, like we made a statement on there concerning a few events that have happened recently, which I'm sure you heard a few things at the last meeting. But let me just clarify that it's business as usual, because we haven't got 100%, are we going to be amalgamated? Yes, most likely. But if we're not, we still have to continue with our own business, which is bylaw 450, I believe it is, about the solar. So all we're doing is amending the existing bylaw to allow solar panels on residential properties and also allow the solar project to go forward so that there's nothing in their way. Well, if the AUC approves it, it goes forward. If they don't approve it, no biggie. But residents will be able to put up their own solar panels. So yes, we're dealing with that, and we're trying to make it so that when we amalgamate, that you can see what those, our bylaws are concerning that, and all the trials and tribulations we went through to get to that point. So that's what that is.
Oh,
Does that
okay.
answer your question?
Yes, yes. I was just wondering what it was all about, and its business just carries on because we're not amalgamated yet. You get to do what you want to do. And your bylaws, if you change them, then we get the new changes in the interim.
Yes, and it's not unlike anything, any other government. You know,
For sure.
every government has the opportunity to go back on any bylaw, make amendments, or scrap it.
Yep.
So, you know, and we've been going through that exercise today, but that is something that is always standard with any government.
Yeah, I was just more wondering if it was any concern to the county, and it's in your county, so I guess it's not a concern to our county. So thank you for clarifying that.
Thank you, Councillor Cermak. I have Blinky Light first with CO Emmons, and then I will go to you, Mr. Wright. Oh, no Blinky Light? Okay, CO Wright has his hand up.
Thank you. Just to follow up to our mayor's comments there. In our current land use bylaw number 450, it's devoid of any reference to alternative energy. Our largest problem is if we do get a development application for any kind of alternative energy, we have no control mechanisms where we can hold a developer accountable and responsible under a development agreement. And that's what we're after, is control and be able to provide that feedback on a routine and regular basis under the Engineering Act, the Planning Act, and all of our AEP acts, okay? We regularly have updated it, but we have not went to the full value for a total rewrite, because that would be about 30,000 plus. To rewrite the whole thing, it would take over a year. So on top of the 30,000, it's all the staff time, all the public consultation, and all the meetings. So we're trying to make that work within this process, and it's pretty standard. I think in your last meeting, did you not have 4 amendments on your land use bylaw? Yeah.
As part of regular practice, we're amending the land use bylaw when we do rezoning. Our council also recently looked at a draft of a renewable energy bylaw that would eventually be wrapped into the land use bylaw draft when it comes forward. So yes, again, similar process, just keeping a document updated to reflect the reality of the day.
Go ahead, Councillor Cermak.
I appreciate this, and I really like the statement that you made, that it puts the onus back onto you and the owner of it, because before, all of this went on to the landowner, and I did not like that, and I like what you're doing there.
Thank you. Go ahead, CO Wright.
I have a lot of other environmental groups that I work with across Alberta, and this is always a constant problem. And I could go back to our land use bylaw issues with the town of Olds, where we had to succinctly control cannabis operations, and that was just as interesting as this one. I can tell you that. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Lougheed?
Thank you, Madam Chair. My apologies to the committee. I haven't followed this item very closely. What stage is the bylaw process in right now? Is it first reading? Is it public hearing? Second reading. Okay. So you've already had a public hearing then on it?
No, we were going to have a public meeting on it, but for some reason Zoom wouldn't work, and I'm sure it was all sorts of different ideas why it didn't, but it didn't work.
CO Wright?
Yeah, just to follow up again on the details in that. Under the public hearing process, under the planning, we've had to re-advertise the whole operation succinctly for 2 7-day periods and start the whole process over. We had a gallery and had a failure, as the mayor's alluded to, of our new computer system that would provide information to the public. And as part of our process, we've also went back with our new date and called the attendees at the meeting on an individual basis to confirm a date and the time. And that was about, let me see, 33 people, if I'm correct. Okay? This is a delicate process. And we've also asked AUC if they would attend our bylaw hearing.
Always welcome to have that. It's always nice to have that invitation. It's fantastic. No, I'm actually hoping to be very busy that day, but thank you. Awesome. Now we have a motion on the floor. If there's no further hands up or lights on, I'm going to call the question. All those in favor of the motion? And just wait up, 3 hands up on the thing. Thank you very much. That motion is carried. Now moving along to item 4.3, assessment matters. I'll turn that over to Mr. Hagan. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good morning, committee members. Today I have before you 4 items related to amalgamation, the first of which deals with assessment matters. Amalgamating municipalities are required to identify any need to treat property assessments differently for all or any part of the proposed municipality. Taxes levied by the new municipality in 2025, which would be the first year following the date of amalgamation, will be based on assessed values for the previous year, which would have been 2024. These values will have been determined by the appointed auditors for Clearwater County and the Village of Caroline, respectively. Assessed values for 2025, which would be the basis for determining 2026 taxes, will be determined by the appointed assessor for the new municipality. Therefore, administration's conclusion is that there should be no need to treat property assessments differently for all or any part of the proposed municipality.
Thank you. Is there any questions or comments or a motion in regards to this item, in regards to assessment? I see no hands up on the screen. Go ahead, Councillor Lahi.
I recognize the staff recommendation. Is there the current year property assessments are used? Current year meaning 2024 assessments? There's a lot of years here in this item, so.
Yeah, I appreciate the question, Councillor Lougheed. I wrestled with that terminology myself, and I tried to look for a definition within the documentation. As to current year, I've made the same assumption that when taxes are levied in 2025, based on the 2024 assessment, which is spelled out in the Municipal Government Act.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, thank you for that clarification. Any further comment, question? I'm looking for a motion. Okay. Mayor Rimmer moves the staff recommendation.
The committee goes with the current year property assessments for the proposed municipality. They're treated in the same for all proposed municipality.
Thank you for that. If there's any further discussion? Seeing no hands up on the Zoom, I will call a question. All those in favor? 3 online, all opposed. That motion is carried. Moving on to 4.3, Director Hagan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This next item deals with the authority to impose additional tax to service pre-amalgamation debt. Proposed amalgamated municipality may be granted the authority to impose additional tax to service debt incurred by one or both of the previous municipalities prior to amalgamation. Long-term debt balances and debt limits per the audited financial statements of Clearwater County and the Village of Caroline as at December 31st, 2022 are as follows. Clearwater County outstanding balance was $1,073,673 with a debt limit of $86,203,707, leaving an available borrowing room of $85,130,034. The Village of Caroline, the outstanding balance was $148,496. The debt limit for the village was $1,876,152, leaving available room of $1,727,656. Looking at the combined totals of the outstanding balance compared to the debt limit, combined, there's an available balance based on the 2022 financial statements of $86,857,690. The Clearwater County balance is represented by one debenture issued by the Alberta Capital Finance Authority related to construction of Westview Lodge, located in the town of Rocky Mountain House. The projected balance of the loan will be $223,335 as at January 1st, 2025, the date of amalgamation, and it will be fully paid in 2025. The Village of Caroline balance is represented by one debenture also issued by the Alberta Capital Finance Authority related to the remediation work on the portion of Highway 54 running through the village. The projected balance of the loan will be $64,821 as at January 1st, 2025, and it will be fully paid in 2026. Considering the relatively low projected balances outstanding as at the proposed date of amalgamation and the debt limit room available, there should be no need for the proposed new municipality to impose additional tax in order to pay down these previous debts.
Thank you. You have your light on, Mayor Rimmer. Did you want to?
Well, I'll move that we accept the staff recommendation.
Okay. Councillor Ratcliffe?
Thank you, Reeve. Just to be clear, what we're basically doing is taking in the small amount of debt from the Village of Caroline and just putting it into the whole pot.
Go ahead, Director Hagan.
I would suggest that rather than, or to clarify the term we would represent the new amalgamated municipality. So again, as described in a previous meeting, all of the assets, liabilities, and so forth of the two former municipalities would move forward and be combined under the new municipality. So you're correct. Each of those debt balances would be combined, and in light of the combined debt limit available to the new municipality, it's quite relatively small.
Yes. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion, clarification? We have a motion on the floor. Staff recommendation. There's no lights or no hands. I'm going to call the question. All those in favor? 3 hands up online. Thank you very much. That motion is carried. Moving on to item 4.4, and that is the tax treatment. Go ahead again, Director Hagan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This deals with tax treatment for previously annexed properties, and amalgamating municipalities are required to identify any special property tax considerations related to previous annexations. If there are properties that were and are affected by previous annexations, and property tax exceptions are still in effect, these properties will need to be identified along with any special considerations for them. For example, an urban municipality may annex land and agree to apply rural tax rates for a period of time. With respect to Clearwater County, the Village of Caroline, there have been no such annexations.
Just looking here online, I believe Mayor Gibson, you have your hand up. Did you have a question? Deputy Mayor Gibson? Jeez.
No, sorry, it's hard to get the silly hand back down again after I put it up, so I apologize.
No worries, no worries. Thank you very much. Just double checking. All right, is there any discussion or motion? Go ahead, Councillor Ratcliffe.
Thank you, Reeve. I would make the motion that the Amalgamation Committee agrees that there are no previously annexed properties within Clearwater County or the Village of Caroline requiring property tax exceptions.
Thank you. Any discussion on the motion on the floor? Seeing no hands, no other lights, I'll call the question. All those in favor? All three hands are from the line too, please. Thank you. That motion is carried. I do. All right, looking now to item 4.5, and again, turning it over to Director Hagan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This final item deals with interim tax treatment. Amalgamating municipalities are required to identify any need to adjust property taxes partway through a tax year. The need for such an interim tax treatment could arise if an amalgamation date was set for any day other than the beginning of the tax year, being January 1st. For example, if April 1st was chosen as an amalgamation date, taxes would be levied by each existing municipality for the period January 1st to March 31st. Taxes would also be levied by the new municipality for the period April 1st to December 31st. As the first day of a tax year, January 1st has been chosen as the proposed amalgamation date for Clearwater County and the Village of Caroline, no interim tax treatment would be required.
Okay. Discussions? Go ahead, Mayor Rimmer.
Oh, I'll just make the motion for the staff recommendation.
For the motion. All right. Mayor Rimmer moves the motion as per staff recommendation. Any discussion or comments? Seeing no hands, no lights, I'll call the question. All those in favor? And 3 hands, that motion is carried. Thank you. Now moving on to section 5, reports 5.1. I will look across to Ms. Haight, please.
Thank you, Chair. Administration would like to request permission to reschedule the March 28th and April 16th meetings to April 25th. As the committee may have noticed, there is a letter from Municipal Affairs announcing that we have been the recipients of a $125,000 grant, and administration completed a request for proposal and posted that on the Alberta Purchasing Connection website on March 4th, with a closing date for March 25th. So administration is hoping to have some time to onboard the consultant, the successful consultant, and also considering that there is going to be public engagement on April 16th, 17th, and 18th, the consultant will need some time to prepare a what we heard report back, and then we could have some feedback on the 2 items that the committee would like to reconsider, the electoral wards and the interim council, and have those items come back April 25th. So just permission to reschedule the timeline.
Okay.
Pardon me? April 25th?
Yes. So looking at the schedule, for discussion, go ahead, Mayor Rimmer.
So we're proposing to try to put all of March 28th and April 16th into one meeting. You really are pushing us, girl.
Go ahead. It may be an all-day meeting, but if I could just clarify, as of today, with the exception of 2 mandatory items to be negotiated, the committee is finished. The rest of the items are operational. They are not required for the final report. Municipal Affairs just advises that the negotiations include some discussion on these items if necessary. So really, there's just 2 more items left to renegotiate, 2 mandatory items to renegotiate. So administration is confident that that it's definitely doable for the committee to finish off the operational information items. And like I said, it may be a full day meeting, April, like 9 till 4, but it's doable.
Okay.
That's April 25th.
April 25th, yeah, sorry. No, administration is requesting that the March 28th meeting and the April 16th meeting be rescheduled to April 25th.
Go ahead, Mayor Rimmer.
Thank you, Chair. When, I know we put out a schedule for public meetings. Can you remind me when those public meetings are? And how it would fit with this? And how close they are to our last, like the April 25th? I can't recall which dates it was. It was the what?
17th and 18th.
Of what?
So, April.
Of April.
For the public?
Yeah.
So-
Lesleville.
And
Yeah.
there's also an online virtual meeting scheduled for the 19th, April 19th.
Okay. And so you want the consultant, or that's going to put this on, so that you guys have, they can come back with all the information and you can go through it. I'm just trying to make sure I'm fully clear on what you're asking for. So we won't have the 28th and the 16th, but we will have the 3 public sessions. And then we come back on the 25th, whether we're all in one piece or not, and we will go over how our public consultations went and then take care of other business as well. Am I correct in that assumption? Okay. So it's the 17th, 18th, and the 19th.
That gives administration enough time
So,
from those
just,
public meetings to the 25th.
so I'm just wondering to, as Ms. Haid has indicated, like the RFP for our consultant closes on the 25th of March. So just to get that person in place or that, and get them up to speed, and so that they can carry forward not only the public engagement, but also get caught up, because we will have discussions on the operational items and the what we heard report, and et cetera. So they have a few weeks before the public engagement to prepare, and they all have at least a week after, is what I'm hearing. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. No hands up or online, so would you need a motion to reschedule that, or just reschedule those? But yeah, okay. So we would need a motion to reschedule March 28th and April 16th to April 25th. All right, go ahead, Councillor Lougheed.
Chair, I'd be pleased to make that motion. But one question,
Yep.
do we believe that after the public information sessions, does that allow us to, and if we are successful on this date, are we able then to submit the report very soon to the minister? When would the timeline be for that? We've stretched those timelines just a little. Just want to make sure we're still on track to.
Well, it's tentatively scheduled to have a draft report ready to, for each council to review in June, at their June meetings. So that's the goalposts, and depending on what happens from the public engagement meetings, depending on how the April 25th meeting goes, like we're hopeful. We're hopeful that the final draft report will be ready in June.
Excellent,
Okay.
thank you so much. I would make that motion as stated before.
You bet. Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Lougheed. The motion's on the floor to reschedule those 2 meetings to April 25th. Any further comments or discussion, questions? Seeing no hands online, I'll look to this committee. I'll call the question. All those in favor? And 3 hands on Zoom. Thank you very much. That motion is carried. All right, moving on then to the correspondence. We have both the letters from Municipal Affairs as far as the amalgamation update and the notification for the successful APC grant application. Is there any comments or questions on those 2 letters? Not looking for a motion to accept the correspondence for information. Kate? Oh, Kate. Counselor Cermak makes the motion to accept the correspondence for information. All those in favor? 1, 2, 3. Yep, 1, 2, 3 online. Thank you. Now looking to item 7 for the adjournment. Mayor Rimmer makes the motion. All those in favor? That motion is carried, and the next meeting will be on April 25th. Thank you very much.